Before starting the tutorial, make sure to download the assets found in the video description. We will be using these assets throughout the tutorial. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Premiere Pro Basics course. Today we're going to learn how to make cuts on the timeline. We're going to go through video effects and transitions, adding movement to footage, adding text titles, and more. Just a bit of a review of what we did last episode. Make sure that your custom workspace is open and that it's reset to its saved layout. For some reason, I have my workspace open on Lumetri scopes, but I actually want it open on the source monitor and open on the project file. So I'm just going to make some alterations to my save layout. And I'm going to go to Windows, Workspaces. We are going to save changes to this workspace. And when we click that button, we're basically saving changes to the saved layout. If we go into our project bin here, again, if you want to create a new folder, Command B, or hit this little new bin icon here. And we are going to drag some files onto the timeline. We are going to drag the hot air balloon, the waterfall, and the reflection of a tree here. And you can see that 2 of these files come with audio and 1 doesn't. We don't need audio for this tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock the video layer and we're going to drag and delete these because we just don't need it for this tutorial. And we're going to unlock it. As you saw, I dragged the footage in and we have the full clips on the timeline here. But we are going to cut them down using some editing techniques. So one tool that you are going to become really familiar with is the razor tool. You can click it here in the toolbar. And another way of clicking it is pressing C on your keyboard. As an editor, I alternate between C and V very often because V is our selection tool and C is our cutting tool. So much easier than clicking on the toolbar, just alternate between C and V, C and V. So if we hit C, this will be our razor tool, and the razor tool allows us to cut clips. Let's go ahead and activate the razor tool, press C, and we're going to make 2 cuts on this clip. Let's say this is where I want it to start. I'll click here on the razor tool. So we made 1 edit. And let's say we wanted to end here. I'm going to click the razor tool here. And you can see that there's been 2 cuts made on this clip. And we're going to just go ahead and delete the clips we don't want. So select the clip, press delete on your keyboard. Press the clip, press delete on your keyboard. And we can go ahead and close these spaces by clicking the space and pressing delete. Alternatively, if we zoom out a bit, and you can do that by pressing the minus button on your keyboard, we can drag these 2 clips so that it meets the first clip. And you can see that it kind of locks into place here. So that's just another way of doing that. So we're going to do the same with the waterfall clip. We're going to go through and we're going to just try to make it about the same length as the first one. So we'll make an edit here, make an edit, and then, yep, this is about the same length here. Make another edit. When we're deleting clips, you got to make sure that you have the selection tool activated. So press V, and we are going to click this clip and delete it. Click it and delete it. Then we're going to delete these spaces here. Now, I'm going to show you just another way of making an edit because sometimes getting out the razor tool is not fast enough because you're going to be making edits all the time. That's going to be your most common function. So let's find a place where we want to make a cut here. Instead of getting out that razor tool, we can hit Command K on our keyboard to make that same edit. Command K. And again, just delete the other clips. Another tool that I find useful on this toolbar is the Track Select Forward tool. You can, again, hit it on the toolbar if you want to use it, or you can press A to activate it. And what this does is it just kind of drags any clips that are after it, it will drag it. So let's say I just want to drag this one, and it'll just move everything backwards. So now we're going to move into some video transitions. So let's go into our effects panel, which should be right here beside the project bin. You can see that under video transitions, you got a wide variety of options. We're going to focus on dissolve and cross dissolve. I find that cross dissolve is going to be one of the main ones you're going to use. There's a lot of fancy stuff in here, but I find that professional video editors, they use straight cuts or cross dissolves if they need to, if it makes sense. But we don't need no fancy star transitions. Unless it adds to the video, I wouldn't throw it in there. I would stick with the basics to just keep it looking clean and professional. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to play around with this cross dissolve effect. We're going to start off by adding a cross dissolve at the beginning of this clip, the hot air balloon clip. We can do that by dragging the cross dissolve at the front here. And you'll see if you play it, and you can press play by clicking the space bar or clicking this here, you see that it fades on. Cross dissolve is a nice way to start any edit. Have it fade on to the screen here. And the cool thing is that you can change the duration of this cross dissolve. If you move your cursor over like this, you can drag how long this cross dissolve is going to last. So that's a really slow one. We're going to undo Command Z. We can make it even shorter. We can make it really short, so it's just quick and easy. You can do whatever floats your boat, and if you want to adjust the specific duration of the cross dissolve, you can actually double click it, and you can set the duration to a specific time if that's what you prefer to do. And you don't have to just use cross dissolves at the beginning of your clips. You can use it in between clips as well. So if you go ahead and drag the cross dissolve in between two clips, you'll see that if you press play, it'll dissolve between those two clips. So we'll try it again. We'll put the cross dissolve between these two clips. See how it looks. All right, it looks pretty good. And why don't we add a cross dissolve at the end here? And see how that looks. And the way I applied this transition is the same way that you can apply all of these transitions. So go ahead and experiment with that if you'd like. So now let's talk about adding some movement to the footage. You can see that all three of these clips are very still. There's no movement to it. I'm pretty sure someone put it on a tripod and recorded it. Well, that's a little boring, I think. So we're going to add a little bit of movement to these clips. So this is where the effects control panel is going to come in here. Let's click effect controls here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have this clip pan from left to right. So a nice subtle pan. What we're going to do first is adjust the scale. So we're going to make it zoom in a bit. So you can go ahead and drag the scale so it zooms in just a little bit. Let's go with 115. This moves the x-axis and this moves the y-axis. So we're going to just move it down a bit. And we're going to start the pan a little bit to the left, so we're going to move along the x-axis here. And we're going to start off by making a keyframe on the position. This is going to be our starting keyframe. This is where we want it to start, so we'll hit the keyframe here. And we're going to move it to the very beginning of the clip. We're going to make another keyframe. And we're going to move it to the side a little bit. And we're going to move the keyframe to the end. The point of keyframes is like you're setting almost like a start point and an end point for the motion you want to add to your video. So let's see how this looks. We're going to start at the beginning of the video. So you can see that there's a bit of a subtle slide to the left, and I think I made it a bit too subtle. So we're going to go ahead and alter this keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and drag it, and we're going to move it a bit more. So it's just a bit more noticeable. We're going to move it back to the end. Let's see how this looks. So that's kind of how you do a pan to the right. Now let's do a zoom in to this waterfall. We're going to mark an endpoint at the beginning at 100. We're going to move it at the front here. We're going to make another keyframe. And we're going to have a zoom in to 110. We're going to move this keyframe to the end here. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that is a lovely, nice zoom in, and it adds a lot more interest to the clip, I think. If you want to make it a little more noticeable, we'll change it to 115 and see how that looks. Okay, very nice. For our last movement, we're going to make this tilt up. So it starts going into the stars. So we're going to start off by just zooming in a bit. And we are going to set our first keyframe, which is the beginning keyframe, and we're just going to move it down a bit. And we're going to hit the position keyframe. We're going to move it to the beginning. We're going to set another keyframe. And we're going to bring it up so it just starts going into the stars. And we're going to move the second keyframe at the end. So again, setting the beginning and end point. So let's see how that looks. Very nice. So as you can see, just adding movement to your clips, it just adds interest to your footage, especially if it's standing still. Just adding a bit of movement can go a long way. And this is especially helpful if you have photos that you need to put into your video. Now that we've covered movement, let's talk about adding text titles to your video. We're going to go to the beginning here, and we need to make some room at the beginning. Remember that track forward tool? This is going to come in handy. If we press A, our track forward tool will be activated, and we can just move all these clips to make some room for the title here. Go into File, New, Legacy Title. We're just going to call the title Intro Title. Press OK. So this will come up on your screen. We're going to start off by clicking with the text title activated onto the screen, and we are going to write Adventure. So this is not the font I want to use. I just want to use a basic Arial or something. So I'm going to highlight this text. We're going to go into the fonts and we're going to look for Arial Black, sure. You can change the size. About here is nice. And the great thing about using the legacy title functions is that you can actually center it nicely on the screen by clicking here. One tip I'd like to let you know is that the white that they automatically give you when you first start a text title is not a white. It's a bit of an off-white. So let's make sure that it's a perfect white. So we'll highlight this text. We'll click the fill type. Drag it over here, and you'll see that it's not a perfect white. It's just like a little gray here. So let's make it a perfect white. So I'm happy with the way that looks on the screen. So we're going to just go ahead and close that legacy title functions here. Let's make sure that the intro title is in the right bin. So just drag it into graphics, and then we can see it by opening it up like this. We're going to drag the intro onto the screen here. And you can see that it is about 5 seconds. We can actually change the duration by just dragging the ends here. Here's okay. Let's just add a bit of animation to this text title. And it's similar to adding movement to the footage. We're just going to have it zoom in a bit. Our first point that we want to make is maybe make it 90 in scale. We're going to press the first keyframe here, make sure it's at the beginning. We're going to make another keyframe and make this 100. So we're just going to have it zoom in nicely here. 100 is not subtle enough, so I'm going to make it 95 and see how that looks. Nice. So why don't we add a nice cross dissolve to the beginning and end? We can do that by finding it in these folders, but I find that it's quicker to just search for it. Cross dissolve perfect, and you drag that at the beginning and the end. I find that the cross dissolves are a bit too long, so I'm going to shorten them a bit. Great. And now, using the track forward tool, press A, and we're going to drag the footage here. So it's pretty close to the title. Awesome. Another thing I'd like to point out is that when you're adding more and more items onto the timeline, the playback can sometimes become slower and slower, or it can even glitch out if there's too much going on. As you can see, my bar is yellow here, and what that means is that it's not playing as accurately as it could be, and if it's red, then it really isn't playing as accurately as it could be. So what I like to do is every once in a while, I like to render these clips so that you can see what the actual playback is going to look like. What I like to do is just mark an in and out point, and I can do that by pressing I, dragging the playhead to the end, and pressing O, similar to the source monitor. Go into sequence, render in and out, and then just wait for it to do its magic here. And now the playback is playing perfectly. And this is good because when you have a lot of stuff going on, you have to render it in order to see what the edit's going to look like when you export it. But anyways, we're going to just undo this in and out, and we can do that by just right-clicking here and clearing in and out. Now we're going to go ahead and make a new sequence. We're going to go back into our project bins. We're going to look at our sequences, and we're going to just duplicate this sequence. All you have to do is click, right-click, and duplicate. And I'm going to name this one lower thirds, because we're going to practice our lower thirds here. I'm going to close the sequence and I'm going to open up the lower third sequence. And as you can see, because I duplicated it, all the clips that I used before are here. I'm just going to delete these, and we are going to drag a new clip onto this timeline. If we go into footage, video 3, so just double click woman talking, and we're going to mark an in and out point here. Mark one right at the beginning here. Go until here, and then mark an out point. And again, it's I and O. We're going to drag it onto the timeline here. And now we are going to create a lower third. We can create text titles the same way that we did before. We're going to go to File, New, Legacy Title, and we're going to call this lower third. Again, we're going to click on the screen. We're just going to give her a name. Aaron Paul. For some reason, it starts me off as this script text, but I just want to make it a nice Arial. Maybe an Arial bold. I'm going to make sure that it is a solid white. And we can actually move the text using the X and Y position here. So we're going to move it to the side here. And we're going to move it down. We're going to copy and paste this, so you can do that by selecting the text, pressing Command C, then Command V. And we're going to make the second line her title, because usually with lower thirds we'll have the name and her title. And we're going to make this a lot smaller and maybe a different font to just spice things up. So I'm going to go with a bold italic, and we're going to make it smaller. That looks nice. Let's move it to the right a bit. And if you want to move both at the same time, just select both by clicking one, pressing Shift, and then pressing the other one to select both. And then we're going to just move it down so it just kind of fits in this nice little corner here. Because it's white, it'd be good to add like a little bit of a drop shadow so it can separate from the background here. So I'm going to just click Shadow. And that's a bit too much for me right now. So let's change the distance to about 5 or maybe 3. I think 5 is okay. And we can change the opacity so it's not too obvious here. Around 40 is good. That's just a nice simple lower third that you can make. And again, let's just make sure it's in the graphics folder. Keep everything organized here. And then we can drag the lower third onto the clip. And you can see that that is what it looks like. We can go with the classic cross dissolve. Have it dissolve on screen. We could have it even slide on screen. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's just delete this cross dissolve here. We're going to make sure that the right text title is selected, and we're going to go into our effect controls. We're experts at this motion thing now, so let's just give it another go. We're going to have it slide from off screen to on screen. Now, because the lower third is in the correct spot that we want it to end up in, let's start off with the end keyframe. So we can hit this little toggle animation button here, and we're going to move the keyframe a little bit to the side here. And then we're going to make our starter keyframe and just move it off screen. Awesome. We'll see how that looks like. It's a bit too slow, I think. So let's zoom in a bit. Make it closer together. Okay, that's about the speed that we want. It's a bit awkward looking, so let's kind of smooth it out a bit. If we highlight both of these keyframes, right click, temporal interpolation, we're going to ease it in. So this is going to just smooth out the animation a bit. That looks a lot better. Maybe it's a bit too fast. Let's drag it out a little more. Okay, great. So that's just a couple of ways of doing the lower third titles. That's pretty much it for today. We went over how to make edits. We went over some different tools, the razor tool, the track select forward tool. We went over some video effects, how to add movement to your footage, and adding text titles to your video. In the next video, we're going to cover some audio editing basics, how to change the volume, how to edit your voiceover, how to edit music. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching and have an awesome day. At You Want Pizzazz, we offer one-on-one sessions for Premiere Pro. If you want to learn how to do something specific, or you just need some one-on-one help, you can trust our team to help you. Please check out our website to book your first 1-hour session.